So you've seen countless videos about the beauty standard, about how the BBL trend is about to die because Kim Kardashian has removed her butt enhancements. And I'm sure you've been wondering, what's next? Throughout history, our definitions of the perfect body has changed. It also varies from culture to culture. But in this video, I'll be focusing on the West and what the perfect body for women may look like in the next decade. Before you step into my space, I advise you to enter with a critical mind. This is a place where I discuss, share my opinions, and educate. Those who have been following me for a few years now know me as an award-winning sex educator. But now I'm currently studying for my sociology degree, so naturally my interests have expanded. Sexuality is a huge part of sociology studies, but so is the topic that I'm about to discuss in this video. I've done quite a lot of research for this video, but if there are any mistakes, do let me know, constructively. All of my sources will be linked in the description box below. So sit back, relax, grab a drink, grab some food, and let's talk about the near future. Now, in my personal opinion, I believe that there are 3 potential body standards that may come next, and I have coined a name for each one. The first standard could be the naturally thin woman. I say naturally thin because I don't ever think that we'll go back to the heroin chic of the 90s or Y2K skinny of the early 2000s, or the pro-Anna days of Tumblr. As much as people fear that the size 0 will come back because Y2K fashion is currently peaking in the mainstream, and all the talk about the 2010s indie sleaze and twee making a comeback, I just don't think that society will accept the size 0 girl anytime soon. Not with the rise of the body positivity movement and fat liberation in the past decade. We have made quite a bit of progress when it comes to inclusivity, although on a pretty superficial scale in my opinion, but still progress nonetheless. So to go back to the size 0 so soon just doesn't make any sense to me. But I do believe that the exhaustion from the BBL body type will cause women to want to go back to thinness, as well as a much less exaggerated body type. The naturally thin woman won't be as curvaceous as the BBL body. Also, the American Apparel aesthetic is upon us, or what I like to call the AA aesthetic. Sorry guys, I forgot to say that the American Apparel aesthetic is a subset of indie sleaze, and indie sleaze is set to make a huge comeback in the next few years. It has been predicted by fashion forecasters, by people in the know. It is going to be the next big thing. So I'm just saying it so it doesn't seem as if I'm mentioning American Apparel out of nowhere. One of the key elements of the AA aesthetic was the laid back, natural look of their models. They all looked realistic, even the ones that would be considered as thick. Looking at old campaigns and adverts, you can clearly see that the BBL body does not fit into this aesthetic. And I can see people latching onto the AA aesthetic as a relief from the IG baddie era of the mid-2010s to mid-2020s. Less makeup and overall a less elaborate appearance in favour of a more minimalistic and effortless look. There will be a huge emphasis on natural beauty, and to be honest, we're already seeing it. For example, the UK black girl makeup trend, which the American black girls are loving, or the Scandinavian aesthetic, which I notice appeals more to white women. Eventually, the body trends may follow. Another reason why I believe that we'll go back to thinness as the general standard is because it's happened 3 times already in the past century. The 20s saw the rise of flapper style and the end of the Gibson girl. Women swapped figure-hugging corsets for rubber girdles to hide their hips and create a more straighter, slender look. This was to adhere to the fashion of the times, which emphasized a more boyish figure. The fashion industry was changing due to mass production, and so was society. Thinness became the goal, and 1920s women felt high amounts of pressure to reduce. There's a really well-researched blog on this called Women's Self-Worth and Body Image in the 1920s, which is linked below. The second time thinness became the standard was in the 1960s when supermodel Twiggy rose to fame after being scouted in a hair salon. She made her editorial debut with the Daily Express, which declared her as the face of 1966 at only age 16. If you read articles about her rise to fame, you'll always see words like boyish figure, androgynous, or wafer thin to describe why her look was so appealing. She was the embodiment of mod fashion at the time. When you look at mod fashion, don't you notice similarities to flapper style in terms of straighter, less figure-hugging silhouettes, as well as Twiggy's short hair, which was also popular in the 20s. The third time thinness came back was during the heroin chic era of the 90s, and this time Kate Moss and Jamie King became the poster girls of this look. This is evident when looking at pictures of Kate Moss taken by Corinne Day in British Vogue in the 90s, and the infamous Calvin Klein ads she featured in during that decade. The late fashion photographer David Soretti's work, which was centered around his then girlfriend Jamie King, was also dubbed as heroin chic by the media and fashion industry at the time. Once again, thinness as the body standard for women was being spearheaded by the fashion industry. It is important to note though that the women who are chosen as poster girls for the beauty standards
are not at fault here. It is the media and fashion industry that pushes them onto us. I suggest reading the article Suffering for Sale by Madison Lynn, which goes into detail about how the fashion industry glamorized poverty, anorexia, and drug abuse for profit during the heroin chic era. I also have a video on my page where I go into detail as to why blaming the poster girls is pretty pointless.
I'm sure many of my black followers will be watching this thinking, these are all white women, Rakaya. The black community was different. And my response to this is, kind of. Yes and no. Josephine Baker is a perfect example of a beautiful 1920s flapper, and she was black. Diana Ross is constantly referred to as a 60s style icon by women of all races. She too was incredibly thin, and I believe that her thinness, as well as other factors, contributed as to why she was made the face of the Supremes. I think her look appealed more to white audiences. For the 90s, I've always told people to look at media where black women were present, and you will know exactly what the beauty standards were for black women in the mainstream. Fresh Prince is a great example. Will Smith and Carlton Banks' love interests were always skinny. And when Will showed interest in a plus-size girl played by Queen Latifah, they made it into such a big deal. Like, they referred to her as fat, which I found mind-boggling because she was no bigger than a size 16. But it shows you how different the standards were in the 90s. Even on Moesha, there was a whole episode centered around her insecurities over her big butt. And her friends even made fun of her about it. There was even a scene of Moesha and her friends going to the gym to try and lose weight. Imagine a whole skinny Brandy, you know. That's just crazy to me. Look at black girl groups from the US and UK as well, or girl groups that had black female members, or black female soloists and rappers. Most of them were all very slim in comparison to black female artists of today. I don't think black women desired a heroin chic look per se, or to look like Paris Hilton in the early 2000s, but there was definitely an ideal amongst them to be thinner. Although the naturally thin woman may feel like a relief from the unrealistic bodies we see on our IG feeds every day, it still promotes thinness and diet culture, and many women who do not fit this body standard will take extreme measures to do so. Anyways, to conclude my predictions of the naturally thin woman becoming the next beauty standard, in terms of appearance, she will have less curves and less emphasis on the booty and hips, and she will have a much more straighter, in proportion figure. The next body type I believe could be the standard is the hard body woman. Good old Urban Dictionary says that hard body is an 80s term used to describe a woman with a nice body, or is used to describe somebody with a very muscular body. In the 1980s book by Gladys Portuguese and Joyce Vedral called Hard Bodies, they used hard body to describe a desirable muscular physique on women. Here's a quote: "Fitness has come to mean firmness, even sensual hardness. Many years ago, women were considered desirable only if they were soft and curvaceous. That was also considered feminine and sexy. The problem was, even then, that soft curves were attractive only when the women were in their teens and 20s and still possessed the natural elasticity of youth. But the soft and appealing curves soon developed into loose skin and bunched up fat, and the woman's posture indicated loss of vitality. Youth was ended at 30. Things have changed. Today, women remain young well into their 40s and even longer. Fortunately for all of us, soft and loose are out of vogue. Hard and tight is the sensuality of the 80s.
Gladys Portuguese, one of the authors of the Hard Bodies book, was a former bodybuilder who had a phenomenal physique during her heyday, even placed in the top 10 twice of Miss Olympia. In fact, the first Miss Olympia bodybuilding competition started in 1980, which is no surprise because there was a huge fitness craze in the 80s, and I believe that this contributed heavily to the body standards for women. Women were working out a lot more, and aerobics was huge. There were a lot of fad exercises, but jazzercise was the most popular one. Jane Fonda is known for revolutionizing fitness in the 80s. Her home video, The Jane Fonda Workout, is one of the biggest selling VHS tapes of all time, and her fitness series sold over 70 million copies during release. The fashion portrayed in her videos, as well as her fit and toned physique, also had an influence on women's body image and gave women more confidence to start working out. In one journal article titled "Exercise Teaches You the Pleasure of Discipline: The Female Body in Jane Fonda's Aerobics Videos" by Melanie Woitas, they talk about the aerobics body which Jane Fonda represented at the time. This was a hybrid of feminine, slender and delicate with a toned and strong body that looked like it worked out. This sounds very similar to what Gladys Portuguese spoke about in her Hard Bodies book. You can also see this body type in other media such as the movie Flashdance, which was highly highly influential as well, not to mention power dressing of the 80s, which emphasized broad shoulders and a cinched waist. The 80s was all about the strong physique, and I can see this making a comeback through the hard-body woman.
Just like the naturally thin woman, the hard-body woman is an antithesis to the BBL body, but in a very different way. While the naturally thin woman prefers a realistic thin body that isn't cosmetically enhanced, the hard-body woman prefers a thin body that is enhanced through fitness. Based on everything that I've said so far, it's not too far-fetched to say that we could have another fitness craze. And some people may say, but we've already been through this already with the wellness era of the 2010s. True, but wellness and fitness are different today. Wellness focuses on clean eating, an active lifestyle, meditation, yoga, and self-care. Whereas fitness is all about working out, going to the gym, lifting weights, bodybuilding, CrossFit, etc. People may also say, but what do you mean a comeback? The fitness industry is already huge. Yes, it is a massive industry worth billions of pounds, but it is currently a niche and has been for many years now. Wellness, on the other hand, was very mainstream during the 2010s, and literally everyone hopped on the wellness bandwagon.
I thought the beauty standard was about to shift to the hard-body woman when Kanye West's Fade video was released, and everybody was going crazy over Teyana Taylor's body, because as you can see, based on the evidence that I'm showing you, although it is not the fault of the poster girls, they are still key components to the beauty ideals changing. Here's a quote from a Vogue article titled, "Teyana Taylor's surreal body in Kanye West's Fade video just broke the internet." Dressed in a retro sports bra and knee pads, the 25-year-old actress, singer and dancer revealed her supernaturally sculpted form, next-level curves and enviably toned core, which she shook and shifted fluidly before the camera in front of an 80s flash dance style gym set. Many other articles popped up speaking about Teyana's body in this way or about her workout routine and diet. She also capitalized off the attention, as she should, releasing her own fitness program, Fade to Fitness, with an accompanying activewear line. Her body is reminiscent of the aerobics body that the journal article I mentioned before used to describe Jane Fonda. I believe that Teyana Taylor represents what the hard-body woman would look like if she became the standard today.
But there will of course be issues with this body type if it becomes the ideal. Eating disorders are very common in the fitness world. It is not unusual to hear gym bros lament about how they're not big enough. My personal trainer, who is like huge, used to just casually say, "I feel small," which I just thought was ridiculous. But this is normal in the fitness community. Fitness sounds and looks good on the outside, but most people train for body image, not for health and well-being. Body dysmorphic disorder and muscle dysmorphia are prevalent in the fitness world, and I worry that these disorders may increase if the hard-body woman becomes the standard. In a study on exercise addiction published in 2019, 38.5% of participants were found at risk of BDD, and 47.2% of these people were female. Popular fitness YouTuber Stephanie Battimore has spoken extensively about losing her period as a bodybuilder and how many women who compete will experience this. Now, obviously, most of us will never be bodybuilders, but my point is that if fitness goes mainstream, these are the kind of extremes that we'll be seeing. Just like how we've witnessed extremes during this BBL era, like women getting illegal butt shots, botched BBLs, and even fatality on the operating table. To conclude, the hard-body woman will prefer a narrow waist, broader shoulders, strong legs and booty, and an overall toned appearance. The last prediction, which many of you may not like because of the last decade that we've had, is the artificial woman. The artificial woman is one who purposely favors a more fake look. Her body and her face are cosmetically enhanced, and she is ultra feminine. As I mentioned at the start of this video, you may have recently heard online, especially on TikTok, that the BBL era is about to end because Kim Kardashian recently removed her butt enhancements. But in my opinion, we may not be seeing the end, but instead we are witnessing the beginning. There isn't enough data or evidence to say whether it's ended or not. We are literally in the thick of it all. One thing that I do agree with though is that the exaggerated, crazy proportions of the BBL body is slowly phasing out. According to Lauryn Hill in her video, the reign of the slim thick influencer is over. She theorized that Kim Kardashian's butt reduction is a sign of an era coming to an end, but that BBLs will still remain. The new standard will still prefer a cinched waist, wide hips, a nice bum, but placed on a much more thinner frame. And I very much agree with her. But what I don't agree with though is when Laurie said that how women will be opting for much more natural looking BBLs. I don't think that there's anything natural about a skinny BBL. Like, look at this picture of Kendall Jenner. I know that there are some women who actually have these proportions, but it is not common. The average size of a woman in the UK is a UK 16, and in the US, it's a US 16. Kendall doesn't even look like that in real life. This picture is literally just a simulacrum of her real self. I really suggest you look into Jean Baudrillard's work, Simulacra and Simulation, as well as his notion of hyperreality.
We have become so desensitized to the IG face, the Facetune airbrush, the unrealistic body proportions, that we are referring to BBL enhanced bodies as more natural looking. We are so used to the artificial, unhuman appearance that is so far off from what the average human looks like, so far off from what the people posting these pictures look like, that we have managed to convince ourselves that they are indeed real, even though they are not. That is the hyper-reality world of social media and of the internet itself. The artificial woman is already the beauty standard, to be honest, and she may not go anywhere, but instead will just evolve. Fashion futurist Geraldine Worry spoke about what humans could look like in the next 100 years in a collaboration with Dazed Beauty. From electronic tattoos which can transmit data into real time, to skin becoming the new luxury by being infused with precious metals and stones such as gold and diamonds, clearly the lines between artificial and real, human and non-human will become incredibly blurred. She also mentions injectables growing in popularity, which is true. Injectables have become so normalized over the past few years. In fact, according to one study, it is predicted that the global injectables market will grow at an annual rate of 12% over the next 5 years.
What's interesting about injectables, specifically lip fillers, is the look that people aim to achieve. Yes, we know that Black people are historically known for having bigger lips and that the current rise in lip filler is directly inspired by us. But I think the reason why people get them now has surpassed that. I think it's more about having a perfect pout. That upwards bend of the outer corner of the lips, almost cartoon characterish like Bratz dolls. Like, you will see loads of people, including Black women, who already have full lips, still get filler just to achieve that pout. We are subtly distancing ourselves from humanness and we don't even realize it. Also, the announcement of Facebook rebranding to Meta and introducing their own metaverse further cements my thoughts. It makes me think, how will women choose to present their avatars in the virtual world? How will humans in general? Let's be real, most of us will choose good-looking avatars.
Like, look at the virtual world of IMVU, for example, and how attractive everybody is on there. Or virtual paper doll games from Stardoll to Everskies, which makes me question, if everybody is attractive in the virtual world, then how will we differentiate ourselves? When beauty becomes common, how do we redefine it? I once again urge you to watch my previous video to understand why we differentiate ourselves as humans. But yeah, as we start to spend more and more time in virtual realities, I believe that our desire to look more like our artificial selves will start to grow.
People may say, ugh, Rakaya, you're exaggerating. Avatars look more like cartoon characters. Yes, you're right, especially the ones that Meta introduced. But do you really think that Meta would introduce realistic looking avatars at the very beginning stages of their metaverse? It would freak people out and would raise questions on ethics. Realistic looking avatars are on their way, but we have to be eased into such a drastic change. And that's with most technologies. If you had told me 10 to 15 years ago that social media would be where it's at today, that TikTok would exist, that there would be a photo sharing app like Instagram, and that people would make money from it and edit their faces and bodies before posting, I wouldn't have believed you.
But that is how rapid technology is progressing forward. We are moving towards a technological singularity. As technology becomes more invasive, as it becomes an intrinsic part of our lives, the definition of what it means to be human changes. So is it crazy to think that how we look, how we modify and beautify ourselves reflects this change? Overall, in terms of appearance, the artificial woman will be thinner than the BBL body, but super curvy with a cinched waist, full booty, and long limbs.
So that's all for predictions, but I don't want to end it on a negative note, so I'm also going to provide solutions. Because I feel like after hearing those 3 predictions, many women watching this will feel hopeless or demotivated. I say this because, as you can see, the standards will still be extremely high and unattainable for the average woman. It sucks, trust me, I know. But in my opinion, there are 2 solutions to dealing with a world that places beauty on such a high pedestal. Number 1, conform. Yeah, just conform. As Helena Rubinstein famously once said, there are no ugly women, only lazy ones? To that I say yes and no, but I'll explain the no part later. But yes, she is partially right. You can see this quote as a motivation for self-improvement, to get better at doing makeup, styling your hair, experimenting with new colours, cuts and techniques, attempting to dress better and understand fashion more. And sorry to whomever this may offend, but losing weight, being more active. These are things that you can do to conform. Yes, you may never be a 10, but elevating your appearance drastically changes how people perceive you. Conforming is striving to blend, not to stand out. Conforming takes time and energy. Conforming is about adhering to outside ideals. People think conforming is hard, but actually the second solution is even harder, and that is self-definition. I first came across self-definition in Patricia Hill Collins' book, Black Feminist Thought. In this book, she expresses that self-definition for Black women is rejecting externally defined controlling images of Black womanhood. And this can be applied to beauty standards because self-definition is all about rejection. Rejecting the external ideals set by the media, the fashion industry, capitalist consumerism, society as an entity in itself, is indeed self-definition. What makes this solution harder is that you'll probably be more susceptible to lookism. Rejecting the outside can also result in the outside rejecting you. It leaves people confused. It causes discomfort. There's one TikTok influencer I love called Sarah Campo-Sarkon. Sarah, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your last name wrong. Sarah has a very maximalist style, and in her comments, people regularly say negative things about her style. She posted a video of her style evolution, and there were comments saying that how she looked better before. When you compare her style from back then to now, she is the perfect example of conform versus self-definition. Her amazing maximalist style screams self-expression and non-conformity, but it results in constant judgment from others. Self-definition isn't just about having an extroverted outward appearance either. Like, you don't need to have loads of piercings on your face, tattoos and colourful hair to self-define. But if that's what it means for you, great. I also love to express myself through fashion. But my point is that it's not just about having an unconventional aesthetic. Self-defining is about saying no to the beauty standard. Self-defining is about giving up on striving towards a standard that feels unattainable. It is about letting go. Beauty can be expensive, and so many women are tired and busy from their everyday lives. They simply do not have the time to spend hours and hours on beautifying themselves. Many women are exhausted from trying to meet the feminine ideal. Many women are exhausted from the pressure to be beautiful, and so choose to make peace with being quote unquote average, which is why I said that I half agree, half disagree with the quote on lazy women. Self-defining can also come in the form of looking at other cultures and observing what they value as beautiful. I know that in other parts of the world outside of the West, I may be seen as absolutely gorgeous. And that thought alone for me is comforting and helps me to define beauty for myself. Especially because I suspect that I've been suffering from body dysmorphia ever since I was 13 to 14. And what has kind of helped me to keep it at a bay in a sense, because I haven't gone for therapy. I know I should and I will, but I haven't gone yet. But what's helped me to keep it at a mild level, I guess, is self-definition. Ever since I was 16, I've always expressed myself through fashion. I've loved fashion. I've always experimented with my personal style. And I remember going on my old Cheektopia page a few months ago. Anyone who doesn't know, it's basically a website where you could post your outfits of the day, like in the late 2000s, early 2010s. And in my bio, I must have written something like, my style is 876. And that basically meant that my style is influenced by the 80s, 70s, and 60s. Over the years, I've always had like different names to call my aesthetic. Like even last year, I was developing an aesthetic called Glam Decora. Yeah, I've just realized that that is what has really helped me to deal with these feelings of body dysmorphia. I've had moments where I've become so obsessive with my looks, but for the most part, I've kept it at a particular low level because of just redefining what beauty means for me. And it's almost been like a coping mechanism, like a shield, because when you dress a bit different, quote unquote, it's like a confidence boost. It even takes courage to dress a bit different than the people around you. So yeah, it's been very helpful for me. But then some people may also say, But Rakaya, these are all personal solutions. Why don't we deal with the bigger issue? Okay, go ahead, but that's pointless to me. Because beauty has always been revered in society long before capitalism. Yes, capitalism has exacerbated these ideals even more. Yes, we can call these issues out, and I believe that we should. Becoming more aware of the structural problems in society is a good thing. But when it comes to this particular topic, personal solutions for me are immediate and more effective. You can whine all you like about not being perceived as beautiful in society, or you can implement one of the solutions that I provided. You may not agree, but it's my own personal view. And for the final time, you would understand my personal view more if you watch my previous video. Okay people, so we have now reached the end. Please, as a final note, follow me on all platforms. Subscribe to my channel. That is all for now. Bye.